Why provide instant grades on the selections of prospects who have yet to take an NFL snap? Well, you're reading this, aren't you? Considering the makeup of every roster and the factors surrounding each pick, Gennaro, Filice and Dan Parr attempt a division-by-division assessment of the 2020 NFL Draft. Keep in mind that these grades are based on draft hauls alone. Picks traded for veteran players were not taken into account. Below is Gennaro's review of the NFC South.
Best pick, Tristan Wirfs, OT, Iowa Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Round 1, number 13 overall.
As mentioned before in the NFC East installment of this series, over the long, daunting walk up to the draft, NFL.com published 31 mock drafts by 11 different analysts. Of those analysts, only one projected Wirfs to Tampa Bay, and that man did so in all three of his mocks. Charlie Casserly, I dub the Wirfs Whisperer. The former Redskins, Texans general manager had the Bucs plucking Wirfs with the number 14 overall pick in mocks 1.0 and 2.0, and then he had Jason Licht jumping up to number 9 in order to secure the athletic tackle's services in mock 3.0. Coincidentally, neither of those scenarios actually played out. Well, Licht did land Wirfs by trading up, but only by one slot. What was the motivation behind that rare mini jump up the board? As chronicled by NBC Sports' Peter King, Licht had caught wind that 49ers LT Joe Staley was going to retire, which he did 2 days later, and the Bucs GM was afraid San Francisco could select the last of the Big Four tackles at number 13. So Licht switched spots with Niners GM John Lynch, swapping a 4th-round pick for a 7th-rounder in the process, and got his guy, shoring up the protection on Tom Brady's front side. And that, boys and girls, is the anatomy of a first-round draft pick.
Most surprising pick, Cesar Ruiz, C.A.U.G., Michigan New Orleans Saints, Round 1, number 24 overall.
The Saints arguably entered this draft with the most complete roster in the NFL. Consequently, mock predicts on the number 24 pick were all over the place, setting up a scenario where any pick could be deemed a surprise. Or no pick could be deemed a surprise. I don't know, barely made it through Philosophy 101. But I contend that Ruiz was indeed a surprise selection, because New Orleans was already set to return all 5 starters from an extraordinarily decorated group up front. LT Teron Armstead, LG Andrus Peat and RG Larry Warford made the Pro Bowl last season, RT Ryan Ramczyk was first-team All-Pro and C. Eric McCoy nabbed a spot on PFWA's All-Rookie team. So, what's the plan for next season? Immediately following the selection of Ruiz, who played center and guard at Michigan, all eyes went to Warford. The 28-year-old carries the second-largest cap hit on the team at $12.875 million, trailing only Drew Brees' $23.650 million figure, and closer watchers of the Saints' offensive line than me assert that the right guard's play slipped a bit last year. With a first-rounder now entering the interior OL fray, Warford seems like a prime-cut candidate. If so, New Orleans will have to absorb just over $5 million in dead money, but that'd still free up nearly $8 million in cap space. And it would give the Saints' offensive line an average age of about 24 years old, with everyone under contract through at least the next 2 seasons. Juicy.
Biggest sleeper, Tyler Johnson, WR, Minnesota Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Round 5, number 161 overall.
With a pair of Pro Bowl wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and a trio of talented tight ends, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate and, for now, O.J. Howard, Tom Brady arrived in Tampa to quite a collection of pass catchers. Did the Bucs just nab the cherry on top, a refined slot receiver? Johnson rewrote the Minnesota record book last season, racking up 86 catches for 1,318 yards. And the bulk of that production, 67 catches and 1,086 yards, per Pro Football Focus, came in the slot. The 6'1", 206-pounder is a different kind of player than the undersized, cat-quick slot machines Brady maximized in New England. Johnson doesn't shake cornerbacks, he bullies them. Johnson lacks top-end juice and welcomes contact, excelling in contested catch situations. But he does share one common trait with Wes Welker, Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola: pristine route running ability. If Johnson can clean up the drops, he could quickly become a useful weapon in TB12's arsenal.
Note: draft classes are ranked from best to worst within the division.
Follow Gennaro Filice on Twitter at Gennaro Filice.